be talking about early decision programs, which some of you in the application cycle right now may be considering. And there are some really great things about them, and there are some not so great things about them. But at the end of the day, you're going to have hopefully all the information that you're going to need to make an informed decision if you choose to apply early decision to any of the law schools on your list. My name is Alice. I am one of the Associate Law School Consultants at Montgomery Admissions Consulting. Like I said, we're going to be covering a lot. So I'm going to give you just a quick overview. And if you have questions, please put them in the comments. I am here to help. I've been working in law school admissions for almost a decade. I've seen pretty much everything at this point, and I am here to help you today. We are going to go over just a couple of things. They are going to be, number one, what an early decision program is, whether or not it'll help you. Number two, if there are any major differences in the logistics of an early decision program. And number three, because we're getting to that time of the year, if you're planning to take that November LSAT, is there any chance that you're going to be able to apply early decision too? So think of those, keep them in mind, and we're going to dive right in. So the very first thing I want to start with is what an early decision program is. It's pretty self-explanatory. Early decision means you are making the decision early, and so is the law school. Typically, you're going to see an application deadline that's significantly earlier. Some of them happen this fall. Some of them happen very early in the spring. But they are significantly earlier than the regular decision application deadline. The next thing that makes these a little different than regular decision is that you are going to make that commitment when you apply. You are saying to a law school, if you choose early decision, I want to go there. I don't care whoever else lets me in. I don't care if I get other acceptances. I am coming to your law school. In return for that, the law school is going to take a look at your application super quick, super early in the cycle, and you may find out that you've been admitted real quick. So I'm talking even before Thanksgiving sometimes, which is very rare for regular decision. There are some other pieces that are important. Most early decision programs are going to be binding, and what that means is that when you submit that application, you are saying to the school, I'm not applying early decision anywhere else. The financial aid package doesn't matter. If I get an admissions decision from you, I will be there in the fall, barring, something crazy happening. And you also agree that even if you've applied to other law schools' regular decision, you're going to withdraw those applications from the schools as soon as you find out. So for the law school, it's really great. They know that they have somebody that's going to be in their class come the fall. They know that you're excited. They know that you want to be there. You have something that's really great. You know that you're going to find out super quick. You know that you can settle in to your law school decision sometimes months earlier than the rest of your peers. It's going to be so calming at the end of all of it. But what I really want to make sure that you're thinking about is that binding piece. Because if you have even the smallest inkling of, I'm not actually sure where it is I want to go. I haven't really decided where I want to live, where I want to practice. I want to see how much money law schools are going to be able to give me. I'm not ready to commit somewhere. Early decision is definitely not for you in that case. I want to make certain that you understand that. Because if there's one thing that it's a really bad look to do as an applicant is to apply early decision and then bail, or apply early decision to 6 schools and go with whoever admits you first. There is some difference of opinions on whether early decision programs can help an applicant or are not worth it or are just one more piece of the application puzzle that you can decide or not. And most of that comes down to the type of early decision program and the type of applicant you are. So if you've seen any of the other videos that I've done for us, you will know that the answer to basically every question forever is it depends. And this is no different. When you are putting together your application and you're putting together your school list and you're finding there's a school with an early decision program and your LSAT may be above their median, but your GPA is a little low, and they really are your dream school, you may think, well, early decision means that my application is going in super early. The pool is going to be smaller, so they're comparing my application to way less people. It's going to be easier, right? Sometimes, but not always. on the one hand, there are some schools where if they know that you're going to commit and you're applying that early and you are agreeing to show up regardless of what your financial aid package looks like, it may make it a little less difficult for you to be admitted if you are splitting the academic metrics, if you're a little worried that your application may not be quite as strong as the average admits for that school. It's not a promise, but sometimes that is the case. However, there is a fun piece of early decision programs that some schools take advantage of. What that is if you apply early decision and you're admitted, you're guaranteed a scholarship. You know right from the get-go, as soon as you get that letter back that says, congratulations, we're so excited to welcome you to the class of 2026. I think that's where we are. Nobody correct me. We're going to 2026. And when you get all of that, you know some of my tuition is paid. And most of the time, those scholarships aren't very small. So if that's a piece of the early decision program, it can be a lot more difficult. They're being a lot more selective in the admissions process because, quite frankly, they're about to shell out a bunch of money for your legal education. Now, if you're a stellar student and you know exactly where it is you want to go, you know exactly what school is your dream school, and you're ready, your application is strong, you're feeling good about it, everything is together, and you've picked one of the schools that has guaranteed scholarship, man, go for it. As long as you are absolutely sure that that's the school you're going to attend, apply early decision. And even if the process is a little more difficult, if you're a good applicant, regardless, go for it. The decision process may be a little more difficult. You may be put towards a higher bar, a higher standard, because the law school is getting ready to give you a rather large scholarship. But that can be a great thing to learn. There are also some schools where there's not any real difference between applying early decision and applying regular decision, except for when you find out, and except for that binding piece of the program. You will be evaluated in and amongst the other early decision candidates, and the decision will be made probably identically to it being made for a regular decision applicant that also applies early in the cycle. Now, like I said, that's all going to vary school to school. It's going to depend a lot on what your application looks like, and it's really, at the end of the day, going to depend on what it is that you are looking for. Because again, cannot stress this enough, most, if not all, of these programs are binding. You are signing up at the very beginning of the application cycle for the law school that you are going to attend if you're admitted. You don't get to change your mind, which for me is terrifying. I mean, I didn't choose my major till I was a junior. Making a decision that early in my life seems terrifying. I still haven't decided what I want to do as my full-time career forever. I really love this, but it's taken me a while to get here too. So the idea of making a decision that's going to lock me in, not my favorite, but that's me. So I would be a regular decision applicant. I was a regular decision applicant. So make sure that you're doing some soul searching, that you are really, 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 really considering whether an early decision program is going to be a good fit for you before you even start looking at whether or not it may be easier or it may be harder for you to get into the school. I want you settled first. You are the top priority here. Then you can start figuring out what factors matter. Is it even a school that you want to go to? I would hope it is. Is it a place that you want to live, even if you love the school? Usually those go hand in hand, but there have been times when they do not. So I really do want to make sure that you are settled in the decision before you watch any more of this video. Pause it, have a little soul search, get settled in, figure out what it is you want, and then you can come back and finish the video, because we'll record this and you'll see it later. Now, the next thing that I want to make sure that you understand is that if it's not a scholarship guaranteed program, there are many that straight up say, if you're admitted through this program and you apply through this program, we're not giving you merit aid. Most of the time, I would assume you still qualify for need-based aid because that's something entirely different, totally different from the application process. It's involved, but that's a whole other ballgame. There are places in your application and on the instructions pages and on the admissions pages for schools that run their program like this that straight up say, you do not qualify for any scholarship that we offer if you choose to apply through this program. That can be a weird thing to contemplate, but if you like the idea of certainty as soon as you are out of the gate, this may be it for you. If you are not worried about how you're going to pay for law school, I'm very jealous because that was not me when I applied to law school. But if you have a dream school and you're not entirely sure that you're setting yourself, you're not above that average applicant that gets admitted, that you're splitting those metrics, that there's something there that makes you a little concerned, particularly when the program straight up says you will not be considered for scholarship, early decision may be a good idea because the financial package probably isn't going to play into your decision making when you decide where to go to law school. So if you just want to settle into it and have it done, this can be a great option. I would love to know your secrets for not having worried about paying for law school, because I worried about it a lot. Figured it out, but it was a big thing that I was thinking about. I liked my state school. It was not super expensive, but I also went to law school in the dark ages, so here we are. The next thing that I really want to talk to you about is what's going to make it different in the application process. Obviously, early decision means that your deadline is significantly earlier. That one should be fairly self-explanatory, but I want to make sure that you're also thinking about anything else that may be part of that process. You're going to apply through the same application clearinghouse. You're going to work through LSAC for almost every school, if not every school. That piece won't be much different. When you go and you start your applications, you're going to see the option for either an early decision application or somewhere in the regular JD application for the fall, you're going to see something that you check that says, I want to apply early decision. There will be some more things later, but we'll get to those in a minute. Now, when I say early, I really do mean it. There are some applications that close their early decision as early as the 1st of November. Some sit at December 1st. There are some that are January 1st. They run the gamut of months, basically starting November 1. I think the latest one that I've ever come across is like super early March, which at that point is like regular decision deadlines are starting to roll around. So, what are you going to do? But if it's a guaranteed scholarship program, get it. Make sure that you are checking these for the school that you're interested in applying to, particularly if you're applying early decision, because if you think you've got an extra month and you don't, that's not a great situation to be in. You may end up submitting an application that you're not crazy about, that isn't as strong as you think it could be. You may, sacrifice a really solid letter of recommendation for the one that you happen to have. So you may end up hurting yourself if you're like running to meet a deadline. The other thing that some schools do is early decision 1 and early decision 2. You may have two chances at this. They may have a November 1 deadline for early decision 1. They may have a deadline in January for early decision 2. All of this information should be on your application portal in LSAC. It should be on the school's website. There are so many places where you can find out this information. And if you really you're in a pinch and you have no idea where to find it, I'm not sure why you wouldn't have no idea if you've watched any of this, because I've just told you about the places. But you can also call the admissions office. They should be able to tell you that as soon as you get on the phone with them. If you are interested in applying early decision, they can walk you through the process for that school very specifically. Take advantage if you need the help. The next thing that's really great, and it's one of the things that most people love about an early decision program, is that you're going to find out super quick. You may know in 2 to 3 weeks after you send your application in. And for schools that sometimes take months to render decisions, 2 to 3 weeks sounds awesome. You're already early in the cycle. I mean, depending on when that application goes in, depending on how they review, if they start looking at early decision applications as soon as they start coming in, you may know in mid-October. You can rock out at Halloween knowing you've got yourself settled for the next fall, which is wild and awesome. Go have fun. Obviously, if you're in school, keep doing your grades. They're going to want those later. Don't phone everything in. But still, you can relax. As you're watching your friends who've chosen to go regular decision or started the application process late, there may be folks that aren't even submitting until after you've heard your decision, which is, again, it's wild. You will know so early. You can relax so quickly. The whole thing is done, you're settled in, and you honestly don't have to pay much of attention to the law school until you get to deposit deadlines, which are going to be way later on in the summer. Really exciting things for you. Could make it a more attractive decision. Again, as long as you know that, UVA is the school for me. It's the only school that I want to go to. Baylor's the only school that I could ever see myself attending. I don't care what it takes to get there. If they will have me, I will go. If that's where you're at, early decision can be a great option. I mentioned it earlier a little bit. One of the things that I need you to consider is the binding aspect of all of these programs. There may be 1 or 2 out there that are non-binding, but that is really, really rare, exceptionally rare. And the language that goes along with that binding agreement, that agreement that you are saying, yes, I am only putting an application into your school early decision. If you say I can come, I am coming. I will tell everybody else that I applied to. If I even applied anywhere else, I am not going to be there in the fall. Don't even worry about making a decision. I am done. I am settled. This is where I'm going. There is language built into the application process, almost always, built into the application, built into the instructions, to make sure that you understand exactly what it is that you are agreeing to when you apply early decision. Some will make you sign an extra form that'll go in with your application that straight up says, I agree that I promise, basically, It's a little contract. Get ready to learn all about those later on. I promise that this is the only early decision application that I am sending in. I promise that as soon as I hear back, if that decision is admit, I will withdraw every other application. I will notify every other school that I've applied to that I'm not going to be there. There are also consequences if you don't abide by this. Many schools write into that same form, they have the right to revoke your admission if you don't follow the rules. Seems a lot, I know, but that's the way the game is played. You are saying something, you are committing to something, and the law school is committing to something. And if one of you is not holding up their end of the deal, it doesn't work. And I do want to make sure that you understand. You are going to school to theoretically become an attorney. If there's any profession that should understand and respect what a signature on a piece of paper that is an agreement means, it's y'all. So don't think that you can sign this and just be like, nah, change my mind. I don't want it anymore. I actually think that I don't want to live in Virginia for the next 3 years, and I don't want to live in Texas for the next 3 years. I actually think I want to go to Chicago. If that is even remotely a possibility, early decision is not for you. And that's fine. Regular decision application process is totally fine. One of these is not better than the other. Should have said that at the top, but seriously, one of these is not better than the other. It depends entirely on what it is that you are looking for as an applicant. The other thing that sometimes shows up in this language, maybe not where you sign, where you agree that you're going to follow their rules, they're going to make sure that your applications have been withdrawn, you're going to take care of all of that, you are going to commit to this school that you've applied to, is some language that says, we can check. You are giving us permission to release your information to other law schools to make sure that you are abiding by the rules. That I don't think is quite as common, but the language does exist. And again, you're going into a profession that is built on a lot on the understanding of what it means to make an agreement. You have agreed to this, and if you decide that it does not matter and that you don't want to honor it, that's not a good look. So again, if you're not sure, early decision may not be for you. The last thing in the logistics section, the thing that's going to vary a little bit school to school, it's going to be pretty much way different from regular decision, and you'll understand why, is that you should always make sure you know what happens if you aren't admitted, because there's a couple of different things that can happen here. We've spent the whole time up to now talking about what happens when you get admitted, because really, that's what we're aiming for. If we apply, we want admitted. On the off chance that you are not admitted through early decision, schools have a couple of different options, and it's going to vary school to school, but there are 3 major paths that they take. The very first one is they'll just bump your application to regular decision. You're going to go into the regular application pool, you're going to sit with the rest of the applicants. You may not find out as quickly. If you forfeited your chance at any scholarships, that goes away, which is exciting, but you do have to wait a little longer to hear what the decision is. You know that you didn't get an early decision, but that doesn't always mean that you're not going to be admitted through regular decision. So that's one. That's the best one. It's the easiest one for you. It requires the least work on your end. The next option is that you may actually have to completely reapply. And what I would recommend, if that's the case at the school that you apply to and you are not admitted through early decision, is have a conversation with somebody in the admissions office. See if you don't have to change anything in your application. If you can send the exact same one in, it's just more work for you, but it's the exact same thing that would happen if they just rolled your application from early decision to regular. You just have to take the steps to put it back in there. However, they may be able to tell you, these were a couple of things that we think you may be able to strengthen a little bit that, may make your application a little bit stronger now that you have this chance. Or this is what the committee saw when they were looking through the early decision application process. And you may want to take a closer look at these particular pieces. Adjust them before you send your application back in. Not every school will be able to tell you that with a lot of specificity, but the worst that happens is that you ask and they cannot tell you. The best thing that happens is that you get some very tailored advice on where you need to pump up your application. Now, if it's an LSAT, you all of a sudden have way more time to take the LSAT, if you want to take it again. If it's your GPA, that one's a little trickier, depending on where you are in the grand scheme of higher education journeys. If you are currently in school, maybe wait till after the fall semester grades come out. If they are good, send a new transcript to LSAC so they see that new GPA. If you're out of school, less options for you, because once your bachelor's degree is conferred, they stop looking at grades and there is no way to bump that undergraduate GPA as far as LSAC is concerned. If you're in a master's program or something along those lines, that's great. They will still look at those transcripts, but it's not going to move that UGPA needle. Or if it's your essays, you have time to rework them. Take a look through, have somebody new read it. Ask them what they think. I can pretty much guarantee that no admissions officer is ever going to go line by line with you in a personal statement or a diversity statement or a supplemental essay. It's just not something that we do. But if you know that your personal statement could be stronger, I imagine that you are smart enough to figure out where that may be. Or you know somebody that can give you some guidance. And you have this second chance to put in a better application, which is awesome. Regular decision, it might take a little longer, that's okay, but you have a second chance. The third path is not great because it says if you apply early decision and you are not admitted, that is the end for this cycle for you. That one doesn't happen super often. Most of the schools that I'm familiar with, if they have an early decision program, are going to roll you into regular decision if you are not admitted through early decision. So hopefully that's the case, but I cannot stress this enough. Check the directions. If you cannot figure it out, ask somebody at the school. Fine print is going to be something that you start paying a lot of attention to after you start law school if you aren't already doing so. And these are the fine print details that may not show up easily, but you can find the information. And you should find the information so you can make an informed decision about what it is you want to do with your law school application. Now, the very last thing that I wanted to talk about is the November LSAT. I know by now, if you haven't signed up to take an LSAT, November is your first go. Registration is closed for October. There even is in October. September's already happened. You're getting down to the end of test options in the year 2022. But it doesn't always mean that you're totally out of the game. So the November LSAT scores are going to release on November 30th. What that means is that if you have everything else in your application together and the early decision program that you're interested in has a deadline of December 1, you cut it real close, but you can apply as soon as that score rolls to you. You can put your application in on November 30th. That score report generates that LSAT report that's going to accompany your application to each law school. When that shows up, it's going to have your November score. We talked about deadlines earlier. There are a lot of schools that have November 1. In that case, kind of out of luck. I can't move the calendar. If you are looking at a school that has 2 early decision options, one of them may be November 1st, but the other one could be January 1 or December 15th or really literally anything other than November 1. And if that's the case, you do have some time. So I don't want you to count yourself out entirely. I want you to make sure that you are thinking through all of this. And if you haven't signed up to take the LSAT yet, I really need you to do that if you want to apply this year. Regardless of how you want to apply, whether it's regular decision or early decision, get yourself signed up for the LSAT. Thank you. Next, what I want you to do is take the time to think. I've talked about this a lot. I said it already. Really sit with this for a little bit. There's not a huge benefit for applying on the first day that the application is open, to the 10th day that the application is open, to the 20th day that the application is open. I mean, at that point, most of the time you're still in September. It's not even been open a month. Think on that. Really make this decision. I want you to be comfortable in it. I don't want you finding yourself in a situation where you've decided you're going to apply early decision and then you panic. If that's the case and the decision has not been rendered, it's wise to reach out to the law school. They may be able to switch from early decision to regular if you have told them before they've made that decision. But once they have decided, you're locked in. Unless, they don't admit you, and then we've talked about that. But really be comfortable in this. You are locking yourself into a lot of things, depending on the program, depending on the scholarship things. You are locking yourself into that super early. If that is going to be something that makes you happy, that decreases the levels of stress in your life, go for it. If you are like me and want as much time as absolutely humanly possible to make your decisions, regular decision is where you want to send your application. Like truly, I cannot overstate how much I want every single solitary second of time I have. My advisor in undergrad had to sit me down and say, you will not graduate if you do not pick something and stick with it. That was a very rude awakening for me. So make sure that as you make the early decision choice, I didn't say decision, that's weird. As you make that choice, it's something that you are comfortable, that you are settled in. Now, we talked about a lot. I went over a bunch of stuff. I'm going to highlight real quick. We talked about what early decision programs are. Early application deadline, early find out, typically binding, means you don't get to go anywhere else if they admit you. Major differences between the programs. Some have guaranteed scholarships, some don't. Some make you forfeit your chance at scholarships. We talked about when it may be helpful to apply. If you're splitting, particularly when there's not a guaranteed scholarship involved, it may be helpful. When there is a guaranteed scholarship involved, it may be more difficult. We talked about what differs between the regular application process and the early decision process on the application piece. Again, early deadline, binding agreement. You will have to withdraw your applications from every other school that you apply to. And you want to make sure that you know what's happening with your application if the decision is anything other than admit. And finally, we talked about that November LSAT. Short answer, it depends, like everything else. If your early decision program's deadline is not November 1st, you may still have a chance. It's going to be cutting it close if it's December 1, but that does not mean the door is closed. You can still get that application in probably. If it's an even later decision, absolutely. Take the November LSAT, have everything together before its score releases, and you should be good to go, particularly for the ones that are like December 15th or January 1 or something along those lines. If you are just now starting to consider this, you've got a lot of work to do and not a ton of time to do it in, but it doesn't mean that you are completely out of the game. I hope this has been helpful. I'm so excited to have been able to join you today. If you need extra help with your law school application, if you think this was helpful, tell your friends about it. Get in touch with us. Talk soon.